I'm not going to go over everything, but about what we do, because that's not really the focus of this seminar. But you can look on the screen and see kind of the stuff that I've been doing for quite a few years now. I have a background in education, project management, digital communication, and then a lot of work in e-learning, instructional design, content creation, a lot of just digital asset management. And I've done a lot of work remotely as well. In terms of my academic professional background, I have a bachelor's in industrial engineering and international studies from Northwestern University. And these are some of the companies that I've either worked for or have worked with as a CEO of Native Learning. Most of this has been spanning things related to either brick and mortar education or online education. I've worked remotely for years. And so these are some of the best tips and tricks that I have going to succeed in this environment. And at the end, we're definitely gonna talk through any questions you guys have. And also, by the way, during this whole presentation, if you guys want to mention any questions over here on the chat, which you guys should see in the browser, definitely do so. I'll either address them directly or at the end of the presentation. All right, so first let's get into some tips. These are some tips that I've learned managing teams remotely. The first thing is, guys, you have to manage yourself, okay? If you don't manage yourself, there's no way you're gonna be able to manage others. What does that mean? What am I talking about? Making sure that you're getting the right amount of sleep, you're maintaining the right type of sleep schedule, that you're eating right, that you're getting some access to nature, even if it's like, the few trees planted outside in your backyard. Making sure that you're getting some physical activity. I know a lot of us, we don't get enough physical activity even when we're going and coming from work, okay? I'm sure there's people here who, and during this quarantine, they've just been sitting in like one room the entire time, right? You have to get some level of exercise. The cognitive benefits, the performance benefits from basic physical activity, are unparalleled. Similarly, you gotta, manage your time right, and you have to spend the right amount of time with family, with other people. Even during this quarantine, you got to figure out safe ways to do that. So that's the first thing. If you can't manage yourself, don't expect to be able to manage others remotely. All right, the second tip I have is you have to communicate a lot, okay? Just think about, guys, when we're in an office environment, think about how much communication is happening. Think about how much non-verbal communication is happening. It's a lot. Actually, I have a question before we move further. So in the chat over here, how many of you guys manage people? So for example, I'm going to write in the chat right here. I manage a team of 5 people directly. And then under those people, there's always like, 2 to 4 other contractors. Can you guys write in the chat just for me to have an idea of like how many people you guys manage? Okay, Team Brian says a team of 4 people. Sorry, excuse this this infinite little recursion. Anybody else want to share like how many people they manage? Or maybe it's 0. Maybe you don't manage anybody. You're just looking to get some. Okay, Mudassar manages 4. Jawad manages 4. Okay, sweet. All right, so it's kind of similar to me managing a small team. Well, think about when you're in that office, right? When we're managing those 4 or 5 people, think about how much of the management and communication is nonverbal. Right? We're just kind of looking over our staff's shoulders, making sure they're not on Facebook. We're kind of pacing right behind them so they pick up the pace a little bit. All that communication stops, right, when we're working remotely. And so whether it's phone, whether it's email or SMS or Zoom or video call, and we're going to be talking about some of my favorites a little bit later, you have to communicate way more than you did before because of so much nonverbal communication that's not happening anymore, or even verbal communication that's not happening anymore. So that's the second thing, is you have to communicate a lot. The third tip, which I'm sure a lot of us are learning these days, is you have to be flexible, okay? So many of our staff, right? They might have kids at home. They might have really bad Wi-Fi. Or maybe this is the only time they've ever gotten to spend this type of time at home with their families. I mean, we have to, as supervisors, we have to respect that, and we have to encourage the full development of our staff. Maybe some staff, like I have a staff member, he's always wanted to work at night. His name's Danish. He works in the evening. He's always worked in the mornings because that's our timings. But he's always wanted to work in the evenings. And this was a chance that I had to allow him to do that. And he's checking in these days at like 2:30 p.m. He logs off I think for a few hours in between, and then comes back at 10 p.m. And it was our chance to allow him to do that. Alternatively, you might have some staff that's just really going bonkers, right? I think yesterday morning, I think I was totally like fed up for a bit, right? So we all, because of this whole quarantine. And it's really important to remember that not all of our staff has the same home living situation, okay? When everybody comes into the office, that's a controlled environment. Everyone's in the same place. But it's no longer the case when working remotely. And so we have to be flexible around people's constraints and around their sensibilities and what they want to do. And it's a great opportunity to build a bond with your staff by showing them that you're willing to trust them to do something they've wanted to do. So that's tip number 3. You have to be flexible. All right, tip number 4. Let's see. Oh, by the way, guys, if you have any questions or comments, you can write them here in the chat. All right, the next thing is you have to focus on outcomes, right? We all have to focus on outcomes. This one's really, really tough to do if we weren't doing it already. I don't know if any of you dropped in on Sana's presentation yesterday about OKRs, but it's absolutely essential, and that's really what I'm talking about here, is that, I mean, this in many ways is the most difficult task because so many people, we manage our staff, again, just by kind of looking over their shoulder, just by being in the same office. I know I do this a lot, right? And making sure they're working. But now that we're working remotely, we all have to develop a deeper understanding of how much our staff can accomplish in one productive day, right? If it's an editor, we have to know how many videos they can edit in a day. If it's a coder, we have to know, right, how many lines of code or how many projects they can complete. If it's a salesperson, we have to know how many sales calls they should be able to complete in a given day, right? And if we didn't have an understanding of those principles before this whole quarantine situation, well, this is going to be the #1 challenge for you now to figure out and talk to your staff and create those realistic goals. But focusing on outcomes, I'm doing it daily. We have to do it daily. I think you can do it weekly, but focusing on outcomes, not on activity. And anybody who's had experience in really doing project management with KPIs, with OKRs, that's going to come hugely in handy in this quarantine situation where you have an intuitive understanding of how much your staff can accomplish in a given day. And if you don't, that's going to be your main challenge, is to figure that out with them, making sure they're on board. It's not just you telling them. All right, next is, actually, this is inaccurate, but you have to enable your team, okay? So I think some of the icons here, they disappeared for some reason. But what do I mean by this? Actually, have there any, since this quarantine started, have there been any resources that you guys had to figure out a way to get to your staff so that they could work at home? Actually, I'm going to type one here. So I had to give laptops, computers to some of my staff because we had them in the office, but they didn't have them at home. So can you guys give any examples of when I say enable your staff, enable your team, making sure that they have all the tools they need at home to succeed? What am I talking about? Any ideas here? Boom, Ahmed Khan, nice. Absolutely, Wi-Fi is one of the most important things. So for example, one of my team members, they have pretty spotty internet at home. Okay, and so it was up to me to tell them, hey, I need you to just buy a mobile hotspot, buy like a 10 gigabyte like a mobile package on your cell phone provider, and just use that for now, right? I had a team member who didn't have a laptop. I got him a laptop. We had a team member who, sorry, somebody who's not muted. Not sure who that is. Okay. Oh, great. Brian Nathan, Slack and Trello. Nice. Yeah, purchasing a business plan for Zoom. We're definitely going to talk about that. Slack, exactly. So enabling your team, right? Making sure they have the tools to succeed. This is extremely important because, and it's kind of obvious, but you want to make sure they don't have any legitimate excuses. To give you guys an example, so we do a lot of content development, and we have all these hard drives full of like gigabytes of data. And I had to figure out ways to get those hard drives to my staff who live all over Karachi, right? One person lived in Malir, the other person lived in Gulshan Iqbal, the other person lived in Sadr, the other person lives near my house. And I had to figure that out. So you have to enable your team with all the resources that they need, which can be challenging. All right, the last tip I have, and then we're going to get into some tools, is we have to lift people's spirits. And we have to maintain that sense of community that is so easily developed when we're all sitting in an office, right? It's so easy, guys, you know, like we're all feeling it, you know, we're all feeling that sense of like, oh man, I'm stuck at home, this sucks. Like my life's turned into like this digital, you know, post-apocalypse dystopia. I'm just sitting at home like a crazy person. And as a manager, as a leader, it's our responsibility to help our staff lift themselves up out of that. Through games, through office chat, right? It's okay on the team Slack or the team Discord or whatever to talk a little bit about, you know, something fun. As a manager, you know, we're so used to just constantly keeping people focused on work, but it's important that we keep people's spirits up as well, especially if we have some team members who have a tougher situation, you know, at their house. So lifting people's spirits, maintaining that sense of focus, that communal sense of purpose, I think is extremely important. So these are some of the tips that I've found, not just in these last few weeks, but over the last few years as I've worked remotely online with people all over the world, is you got to manage yourself. You got to communicate more than you think. You got to be flexible, focus on outcomes, enable your team, and you have to lift people's spirits. If there's any other tips or ideas, definitely you guys can mention them in the chat. There's so many different ideas. But next thing, I wanted to move on to some tools, some practical tools, and I want to show you guys how I'm using them to kind of make these things a little bit easier to accomplish. Anybody have any questions so far? Is this useful? All right, sweet. Mudassir says it's super useful. It says, yes, it is. Awesome. All right, I'll take that. I'll take that. So, all right, tools. So for me, the number one tool that's been very, very useful is Google Calendar, helping me manage my time, right? So just to give you guys an idea, so this is my Google Calendar, right? I'm really making sure I manage my time. The meetings in red, the things in red are things that are super important. All right, they're meetings that I got to get to. Helps keep me kind of on my toes a little bit about what's going on. Not only that, right, but I also have teams for my staff. I also have calendars for my staff. So for example, Anas, right, his working hours these days are 10 to 6. And today he's working on a final review of Urdu chapters 9 to 16. He's filling in the missing links and docs, and he's updating the typography spreadsheet with fixes, right? Arisha's hours are similar. They're 10 to 6. And we have some of her goals here, and that they've communicated to me. Similarly with Danish, right? Danish is his working hours. He starts at 2 p.m. every day, and he's working on finishing the Punjabi typography on some projects that we have going. And so Google Calendar for me has been an essential tool. And if you guys don't know how to use it, I mean, it's pretty simple. You open up a calendar. Let's say you want to create a recurring meeting. So I'll just drag. Let's say I have a check-in meeting here. So check-in meeting with, let's say, Sabika. Right? And we can go to more options, and I can repeat this every single day going into custom until, let's say, the end of April, right? Boom, done. And so now I have this recurring meeting every day with Sabika from 12 to 1. And here I can go in, I can write some notes in the description about each day that I speak to her. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and delete this. But for me, Google Calendar, it's been absolutely essential. And this is kind of the full thing that I'm looking at every day. All right, so that's Google Calendar, very, very useful. Second, and this is what we've been using to really maintain our sense of community here at Native Learning, which is our Office Discord. Does anybody know what Discord is? Any of you guys know what Discord is? Oh yeah, I'll invite Sabika actually. Ahmed, that's a really great idea. So you can even invite somebody, right? So let's say I made this calendar, Sabika, and I can do the repeat, and I can write in Sabika Abbas, I believe, at basha.org. So save it, and even if that's not the right one, we'll talk to Sabika later. And she's gotten an invite as well. Very, very useful. The second thing, I wanted to talk about is Discord. Does anybody know what Discord is? Yeah, Discord is better than Slack. I totally agree. Hamna also knows about Discord. Okay, cool. So this is our Discord. So I'm gonna actually unmute myself real quick. And all our team is just sitting here basically. While we're working, we all log into the Discord. It's like an audio channel for people to communicate. So let me just unmute myself. Okay, it seems like I can't be unmuted in both places. So, but anyways, I'll just kind of describe this to you guys. If you guys can see, can you guys see my screen? Okay, great. So I think you guys won't be able to hear my team for some technical reason, but this is our Discord. And during working hours, our team signs in here. And I can actually speak to them. It's like we're all sitting in the same room. And for example, this is Anash, this is Danish, this is Arisha, and this is myself. And so if I unmute and I undeafen, I won't do this right now because I think it automatically mutes the Google Hangouts. I can speak to my team, and it's as if we're in the same room. So I can even ask. Normally, I would just ask over voice, but I'm going to go ahead and ask over chat. So Danish, can you share your screen, please? I'm just going to ask Danish over here to share his screen. And so he's going to go live shortly. And we're going to be able to see what Danish is up to. And it's a great way for me as a manager to see what my staff is doing, but also for us to collaborate over different things. So here I'm joining Danish's stream. I just want to make sure you guys can you guys see this? Cool, okay. Whoa, all right. So this is Danish's screen. So here Danish can just kind of talk to me about what he's up to. I think you guys won't be able to hear him, again, because of this technical limitation, I think. So clearly I can see Danish, right? He's working on Punjabi right now. We're making an online course with Rosie.pk, and it's almost done, actually. It's going to launch in like maybe a week and a half. And he's just applying the Punjabi typography on here, which is exactly what we talked about that he'd be doing today. And I can do a similar with all my staff. And this is really what we've used Discord to maintain that sense of community, like we're all sitting in the same room, allowing us to easily talk to each other. All right, sweet. So I'm going to go ahead and exit this Danish's screen share. Thanks, Danish. Good luck. And so that's Discord, and it's what we've been using a lot here at Native to kind of keep that sense of office. Obviously, there's Zoom, Google Hangout, Zoom Premium, Zoom Plus. A lot of people know about it. For those of you that don't, right, Zoom has different plans and pricing. If you guys want to do longer meetings, if you guys have a lot of staff, if you want to do polling, interactive polling, if you want analytics. Actually, Ahmed Khan, who's in the audience right now, you guys can hit him up. He also has been using Zoom at L'École, which is a private school here in Defense, to kind of manage all of their classes. So the basic pro feature gives you a lot of tools like polling, like recording all of these sessions. So Zoom is also obviously very, very important to us. All right, the next thing is Trello, right? Whether it's Trello or Asana or any type of project management tool. So this is an example of a Trello. So this is what we've been using to manage the creation and finishing up this online course, How to Get a Job. And so this is a central place for everybody to know what we're all up to, what the progress has been, who's in charge of what. For example, DK, Danish Khan, is in charge of typography. Sohail Sabi is in charge of the Punjabi quizzes. And it's a great way for me to track what everyone's doing and what benchmarks we've achieved. And we're just scratching the surface here with Trello. Slack, WhatsApp, obviously there's Slack, there's WhatsApp. We don't use Slack, we use WhatsApp for desktop. I don't need to talk about this too much. I think people realize that that's useful. Google Drive, clearly, right? So the whole Google Suite. I mean, I'm not sure how you can function remotely without either using Microsoft Teams or the whole Google Suite. Whether it's Drive, Docs, Sheets, everything needs to be in the cloud. Version control is so much easier. And as you can see, I can see my team constantly pinging us here, so I know what's going on. All right. A couple of more. GitHub, if you're a coder. Adobe Creative Cloud, if you guys are doing creative work, right? I know it's kind of expensive, but if you're a remote team doing creative work, whether it's in Photoshop, Illustrator, Premiere, having legit Adobe Creative Cloud gives you access to team projects. So for example, this is some of the work that I was doing today. I'm dubbing all of this in Urdu right now. We can create a team project, and we can create a new team project, and I can add other team members. And it's a great way to maintain version control over your Adobe Photoshop, Illustrator, Premiere files. Okay, so legit Adobe Creative Suite, kind of expensive, but worth it if you have multiple people working on these files. And then similarly, GitHub for any code that you want to share. For example, we've been doing some work in WordPress, and I've been sharing this I've been keeping this in GitHub. All right. A couple of more. WeTransfer, okay? Last couple of ones, and we'll get to any questions or discussions you guys want to have. But any file sharing, I don't know of a better way than WeTransfer to share large files. We often are sharing 300, 200 megabyte, 2 gigabyte files between the team, and we're definitely using WeTransfer. And last but not least is Scribble. You gotta have some fun things to wind. At the end of the day, you want to wind down, maintain that sense of community. Actually, our team member Arisha introduced us to this, and we've used it. So whether it's Call of Duty or Scribble, whatever it is, make sure you're keeping some fun things so that your team, has something to look forward to and a way to bond at the end of the day. So that's kind of really quick. I just wanted to quickly go over some of these tools that you guys can use. You guys can write them down, take a screenshot right now if you want. They're pretty simple tools. It's just really about creating that ecosystem for you that succeeds for you guys, right? For us, we're mainly using Google Calendar, Discord, Google Drive, and WhatsApp, right? That's kind of what we found works for us. Especially Discord for me has been phenomenal in creating that sense of a shared office space, being able to just, hey, yo, let's talk for a second. And someone being able to chime in. All right, so that's all that I have today. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen. If I can figure out how you are presenting, stop presenting. So that's all that I got. If you guys have any questions, how to manage communication with team members working in different hours. That's a really great question. We have some question actually. So that's a really good question, and I think I glossed over this, but if you look on my Google Calendar, I have a native learning stand-up meeting every day at 10 a.m. So in this meeting, typically, it's just me, Danish, and Arisha, because we're the ones starting at 10 a.m. But, me, Anas, and Arisha, right? Danish, he comes in at 2:30. I have a separate little quick check-in with Danish. So I definitely recommend daily check-ins with your staff, pretty much whenever they're kind of starting their day. And that might require more effort on your end, but for me, a basic rough standardization of hours for me as a manager is extremely, extremely important. What else? How to track employees' progress with or without time tracking. What's the recommended way? That's a really great question. I think it goes back to this idea of having an understanding of how much somebody can achieve in a day. Right? And kind of setting them up for success and managing those expectations. You're absolutely right. If you have no idea how much this person should be able to achieve in a day, this is going to be a challenge. And it does come down to a level of trust and communication. But you're going to have to set daily goals, weekly goals, and hold them accountable if they're not achieving those goals. And you can actually look more up about OKR and KPIs to expand on that discussion. Sana talked about that extensively yesterday. Imran Shah, number of users to collaborate simultaneously in Discord. I have a pretty small team, so I'm not really sure. I do know that Discord has a premium version that you can use. Sorry, I think somebody's audio is on. I'm not sure. Wahid Ali. Wahid, can you mute yourself, please? Okay, great. Thanks, Sabika. Thank you. So the number of users, you can have a lot. You can even have different rooms. So I have a native admin, different channel for the board and some of the staff, and we have native learning, which is for all the staff. I even have the one with my friends. We play Diablo 3 together nowadays. If you look on my calendar, actually 6 to 7 a.m. every day, 7:30 to 8:30, I'm playing video games with my friends in America who are also quarantined. So there's lots of different features. You can check it out. You can make different rooms, different plans, and pay more money for more features. Native Learning have a Facebook group? Yeah, we definitely have a Facebook group. Well, we have a Facebook page that you can definitely use that. Well, we make online courses, and so that's how we've been doing it. I definitely think that's an area where we can improve, is how to kind of communicate with customers during this quarantine. I think that's a whole separate topic. It's not something we're going to focus on too much here, but that's what we've been doing. Do you keep timing track of team members? Yeah, I do keep a rough track. I think, again, that's something we can always do better, but by kind of setting down the timings of everybody, I have a pretty good idea of, when I should be expecting to see people log on and when I should be expecting to see people log off, and then what they should have accomplished in that day. So definitely I am kind of doing that. How do you deal with employee sickness? So, yeah, that's a really tough one. And I don't think there's an easy answer to all of these. But I think in terms of sickness, it comes down to one, trust, right? Like our team, I trust our team a lot. Like all of these people, Anas, Danish, Arisha, myself, like these are all people who have demonstrated work ethic, have demonstrated a commitment to our goals that has shown me that these are people I can trust. So as long as I see that they're doing work, as long as I see that they're pushing us and they're working, I personally have really worked hard to try to be a little bit flexible during this time, because I know that some people, it is tougher for them to be quarantined in one place all day. But at the end of the day, it's about, are we achieving our goals? Do I see people showing up regularly? If somebody's just constantly sick all the time, and you can't trust them, that's kind of, I think, a deeper problem of, how you're managing your team and how, does that person have a place at your organization? Especially when things are remote, trust levels have to be really, really high. And I don't think it's possible to work totally remotely without a strong sense of trust and demonstrated commitment. What else? How do you grade Convo? Sorry, I don't understand what that means. Imran, can you rephrase that? All right. Well, that's all that I got right now. If you guys don't have any more questions, you can feel free to ping. This is my email, uzair@native.xyz. If you guys want to check out some of our courses, this is our website, .xyz, and our Facebook page is Native Learning. Same with the Instagram. You can catch me on LinkedIn as well. So I've been doing this a long time. How can we record our students' attendance in Shushma? Hey, Miss Shushma, what's up? Sorry, how can we record our students' attendance in what? On Zoom? There's actually ways to really get full access to the administrative tools on Zoom. You're going to have to subscribe to the $15 a month plan, which gives you full, not only attendance, it also gives you attentiveness, which it sees your audience. Are they maintaining eye contact with the screen? And it gives you a ton of other tools as well for attendance, attentiveness, responsiveness. Oh, Convo. Oh, cool. So I've never used Convo before, but I'm sure that you can check that out. Convo Teams, team collaboration. Okay, cool. I've never heard of this before, but again, guys, don't put too much emphasis on all the tools. Yeah, how to infuse a sense of ownership in employees while working remotely. That's a really good question. I'm not like a know-it-all guru over here. I think some of the answers I'm going to give you, I think might not satisfy you, but I think it's just about finding the right people, and I think in a remote environment, it's tougher to find the right people. And yeah, lead from the front, right? Like Ahmed said, making sure that all these policies and tips and tricks that I just discussed, that you're the one implementing them to the max, right? If you have a morning check-in, you're there. If you have, team members who are working on stuff, they need stuff, you try to provide it. Everything starts from yourself. And then it's all about finding really great people. And then, finding the right tools that fit into that. But a sense of ownership, I think that's a very deep conversation. And it has to do with, how the supervisor interacts with them, how much ownership they give verbally, how much you tell your team, hey, I'm really relying on you, and how much the carrot and the stick and leading by example. I think there's no real easy answer to that. I think that's a really tough question. But luckily, it's something I've found some success in, I think. So I would say great team, which is harder, find when remote, lead by example. Yeah, I think Ahmed is absolutely spot on, that everyone knows it's a sink or swim world, and that if people don't adapt and if people aren't able to thrive in this remote environment, it's going to be really tough for them. Yeah, I agree with Sana totally. And that's why I started off with some general tips and not really about the tools, because, you can use lots of different tools, but it's all about the team and the person leading and how much commitment they show. Yeah, रोजी रोटी की बात है, बिल्कुल सही बोल रहा है अहमद, बिल्कुल सही बोल रहा है. So anyways, this is a little bit, you guys got a little peek into how we're doing things, right? We're using Google Calendar, we're using a little bit of Zoom, we're using a lot of Discord, and a few of these other tools. Some of the work that we're doing, just to give you guys an idea, right, is let's see, I'm doing a little bit of dev work. I gotta pay my staff. I'm using Payroll Plus. I'm okay, I got that. So for payroll, I'm using Payroll Plus, which is a SimSim service. We're using Google Drive extensively, right? WeTransfer, Adobe Premiere, but really it's about these basic tips, which I first talked about. I think this is super important. This is kind of the takeaway, I think, from this whole thing. And the OKR discussion that Sana had, absolutely critical. I didn't spend too much time on that because she did a great job, but very, very, very important. All right, I'm done, guys. I'm done. I don't have anything else to say if you guys don't have any questions. Yep, guys, I've been doing this for years. We're helping a lot of organizations here right now as well. All right, we're helping Mizan Bank a little bit. We're helping a few other companies, both in the remote work, but also e-learning. So definitely, if you guys have any questions, want to talk about it, you can definitely send me a link or send me an email. Cool. All right, I'm out, guys. Later.